Welcome to another book talk with Mr. Allen. Today's book is Dead End in Norvelt by Jack Gantos. So this book won the John Newbery Award. It also won the Scott Odell Award for historical fiction. It has a nice blend of mystery, history, and humor. It's a little bit challenging to read, so it's not a low-level book, but it really does have a lot of funny parts and a lot of really just excellent writing. The protagonist is Jack Gantos. So he kind of blends real things that happened to him during his childhood with fictional elements. And the basic premise of the book is that Jack gets grounded and his mother makes him start working with this woman named Mrs. Volker, who writes the town's obituaries. An obituary is basically when they do a write-up about you, about your life after you pass away. So he's kind of forced to help out this elderly woman write her obituaries. His mother and father are clashing, and the book takes place in 1962 in Norvelt, Pennsylvania, which was a real town, and it was one of several that Eleanor Roosevelt, Norvelt, established. It was one of these planned communities. And as you read the book, you really understand that a lot of people in the town took great pride in being, a part of one of these great communities. And you also kind of see the town in decline as well. So, like I said, it's a slightly challenging read, but it is really funny and worthwhile if you get into it. And I'm going to read a short excerpt from the book right now. I rapped on Miss Volker's door with my knuckles. "Miss Volker!" I called out loudly because her hearing aid might still be waterlogged from the toilet. "It's Jack Gantos. I'm here to help you." "Come in," she cawed like a pirate parrot. I pushed the door to and stuck my head inside. "Hello?" "In the kitchen," she squawked. I followed the smell of bacon and entered the kitchen, where I was surprised to see her leaning over the gas stove with her hands inside a wide, tall pot and her face all screwed up in agony. I could tell by the leaf-sized flames under the pot that it had to be scalding hot, and right away I was wondering if she was melting herself down. Mom had always said that she was worth her weight in gold to our little town, but before I could start a conversation about Inca gold, she said, "Sit and eat," and nodded her stiff bush of bluish cotton candy hair toward a chair at the kitchen table, where a plate had been set with bacon, eggs, and toast. "I found these chocolates on the porch," I said, and offered her the box. "Put them on the table," she ordered, without removing her hands from the pot. "There's a card, too," I pointed out. "You can just throw that in the trash," she snapped. "Trash?" I asked. "Don't you want to know who it's from?" "It's from the same hopeless case as always," she said. "Now trash it." I tossed the card in the trash like she said. I put the chocolates on the table, and when I sat down, she began to talk as if someone were sticking her with sharp pins. "Thank you for coming," she cried out, and did a spastic tippy-toe dance. "Today," she squeaked, "we're about to embark on a great experiment." Then she took a deep breath, shifted her hips around, and grimaced. "What kind of experiment?" I asked fearfully, and stared at the pot where I was sure her hands were melting. "Oh gosh," she said in a strained voice, and jerked her head back and stamped her thick old lady shoe heels on the kitchen linoleum. "This is really, really scalding hot, but let's still keep talking and pretend like nothing at all is wrong." "Miss Volker," I asked quietly, trying to be ridiculously calm like when doctors talk to insane people in the movies. I didn't want her to snap and try to kill me like some psychotic lunatic. "You do realize that you are cooking your hands down in that big pot?" "Of course I do, dear," she sputtered and bit down on her lip and hissed as if her words were driven by steam. "Now please turn it off." I sprang out of my chair and twisted the knob on the stove, and the flames doubled in size. "Jeez Louise," she shouted crossly. "I said off!" "Whoops, sorry," I apologized and quickly turned the knob the other way. "Argh!" she cried out. "I think I may have really melted them this time." She lifted her hands out of the pot, and they were melting. Lumps of glowing yellow flesh oozed down her forearms and splattered onto the floor. "Oh, mercy," I cried, and fidgeted up and down like a terrified squirrel. "Miss Volker, what have you done to yourself?" "Turn on the cold water over the sink," she ordered. "I think I may have done permanent damage." I nearly flew to the sink and turned the spigot handle. "Give me your hands," I said. "Quick!" She stumbled toward me, then held out the sagging stumps of her melted arms. I hesitated, but there was nothing else to do except run away screaming, so I grabbed what I thought were her wrists. Oh, jeez, The warm, lifeless flesh squished between my fingers as I tugged her forward and held her ruined hands under the water. She stamped the floor and groaned in horsey agony as her eyes rolled back into her head. "You'll be fine," I jabbered about 5 jittery times in a row, and each time my mind echoed back, "You won't be fine. You won't ever be fine because you just melted your hands off." "Ah," she sighed with a relaxed shudder, and after a moment her eyes leveled out. "That feels better," she said calmly. "Now turn off the water." I did, and she held her arms up. "Now peel it off," she ordered. "Peel what off?" I asked. "The sticky stuff on my arm," she said impatiently, and then she held up a rounded stump up to her mouth, bit off the cooked chunk, and spit it into the trash. I felt faint. I staggered back a few steps, and by then my nose was spewing like an elephant bathing itself. "Please, Miss Volker," I said with my voice quavering. "Please don't eat your own flesh. Oh, cheese us crust. Mom didn't know Miss Volker had gone insane, and I knew I would go insane too if I had to watch her cannibalize her own body down to the white boiled bones." "You're bleeding all over the floor," she said, turning her attention toward me as if she wanted to wash her flesh meal down with my blood. "Let me have a look at you." Then she reached toward me with her deformed stumps and touched my face, and at that moment I yelped out loud and dropped over dead. So that's just a small excerpt from Dead End in Norvelt. Like I said, there's a lot of funny parts in this book. There are motorcycle gangs. You learn about history along the way. It's a little bit, like I said, more challenging of a read, but it is a worthwhile read, and I highly recommend this book if you like those things. So go out and grab this book, and if you liked this book review, click like, click subscribe, and keep on reading.